Welcome to Fear Ain't Fiction, where the stories are strange and the fear is real. My name is Semous. That's famous with an S, for those who don't know how to say my name. And this is one of my many true horror stories. I grew up in Los Angeles with my mother, twin sister, and two brothers. We were very poor, so housing was whatever we could afford at the time. My story starts when we lived in the Foxy Den Motel on 75th and Main. Living in a motel was a very embarrassing situation since I attended school just one block away. I did my very best to hide the fact that I was poor, but I could only hide it from the other kids for just a little while. Then the laughter started. Kids can be so cruel, especially when my living conditions were completely out of my control. There were two ways of going to school. Either I could go through the front, risking being seen coming from the motel, or I could go through the parking lot that led to the alley. The no-brainer choice was the alley for me and my siblings. After a few weeks of going through the alleyway, my sister noticed something. She said the house in the alley looked like a face from the front. Now, I passed this house several times and never paid much attention to it, but she was right. It does look like a face. It was 2 stories with 2 windows that looked like eyes and a boarded up garage that represented teeth. Damn. About a week later, my aunt and uncle moved into that house. I really wanted to see what the inside looked like, so when I was tasked to grab my aunt's purse off the living room couch, I jumped at the opportunity and went over to the house. Once I entered the house, I began to feel weird. It felt like there was a presence inside with me, but I was the only one there. Now, this was during Christmas time, so they had the Christmas tree up with the lights off, or so I thought. I made my way to the couch and grabbed the purse. Suddenly, I heard crying coming from one of the closed doors in the room. I didn't know which room it was, and I was starting to get scared. There was going to be no investigation from me at that point. As I turned around to exit the room, I saw a see-through sheet covering the Christmas tree, and the lights were on. It took me a long second to realize I had to get the hell out of there immediately, so I ran. I got back to my hotel room, gave my aunt her purse, and swore to myself I would never enter that house again. Months went by, and my aunt and uncle moved out of that house when they found cheaper rent a few blocks away. Coming home from school one day, I saw my mom talking to some guy in the yard of that house. I went over to her, and they were talking about a down payment. I immediately tried to tell my mom what had happened to me in that house, but she wasn't trying to hear it. She said we needed more space. We couldn't afford to live in the motel anymore, and we had to move by the end of the week. Every day that week, I would go outside and stare at the house in fear. I thought about running away, but that would destroy my mother. I had no options but to move in. Our first 9 days went different than what I was expecting. I started to let my guard down, but then night 10 happened. Mom got paid that day, and we all fell asleep in the living room together. I woke up around midnight and began to play my Super Nintendo. Everything was fine for about 10 minutes. Then I began to hear small creaks from the hallway closet. I'm in a room with my whole family surrounding me, asleep, so I don't feel scared. But then the bathroom door slowly started to open. Now I couldn't deny that sound, so I dropped my controller and threw the covers over my head. I could hear multiple people running in the living room. It sounded like they were racing one another. This went on for about a minute, but it felt like a lifetime. My heart was beating out of my chest, and the only thing I wanted to do was turn off my game. A few minutes passed by. I hurried and unplugged the adapter from the wall, turned the TV off, and threw my head underneath the blanket again. Now it's dark, and I can't see anything, but all the sounds from outside are heightened. The sounds of walking started back up. I could hear a few people walk from the kitchen to the hallway closet. I said, "Sam, are you going to the bathroom?" An older lady's voice replied back, "No. Want to come in the closet with me?" And she laughed, ran to the closet, and slammed the door behind herself. I passed out from the fright. I woke up the next morning, and everyone was all over the place doing their own thing. My mom told me to get dressed so I could run to the store with her. We were both quiet on the way to the store, but conversation opened up on the way back home. I wanted to tell my mom what happened the night before, but I didn't want her to get upset with me. She already knew I didn't want to live there, but this was the only option for us, so I kept my mouth shut about it. Pulling up to the gate, my mom stopped me from walking and told me, "Never talk to them. They will never leave you alone after that." I was confused. I asked, "What do you mean by that?" She said, "The demons. That's how they stick to you, by acknowledging them." I said, "Mom, do you know what happened to me last night?" She said, "Yes, I saw it. I'm sorry I couldn't help you because I couldn't move. It was like they wanted me to watch." I started crying and told her I didn't want to live there anymore. She said she knew, but we didn't have a choice right now. She had me wipe my tears and promised to never tell the other kids about what happened. I asked, "What can I do to not see them?" She said, "You already spoke to them. They will never leave you alone for the rest of your life." My name is James, and I need to tell you about something that happened to me back in 2003 when I was 17 years old. I've never told this story publicly before, but I think it's time people knew about Old Bypass Road in Okeechobee County. I grew up in a small town about 30 minutes west of Lake Okeechobee. If you're not from Florida, you probably never heard of it. It's cattle country, swampland, and sugarcane fields as far as you can see. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody, and nothing ever happens. My parents were strict, real strict, so when I wanted to see my girlfriend Sarah after her curfew, I had to get creative. We'd meet up on this old road that nobody used anymore, Old Bypass Road. It used to be the main route through town back in the 50s and 60s, but when they built the new highway in 74, they just abandoned it, left it there to rot. The road ran for about 5 miles through palmetto scrub and old Florida wilderness. No streetlights, no houses, just Spanish moss hanging from the oak trees and the sound of bullfrogs and gators in the ditches on either side. Sarah and I had been meeting there for about 3 months, always parked in the same spot, right under this massive oak tree about 2 miles in. We chose that spot because you could see headlights coming from either direction, so we'd have warning if someone was coming. This particular night was October 31st, 2003, Halloween. Sarah had snuck out around 11 p.m., and we met up at our usual spot. We were just talking, listening to music, nothing crazy. The windows were cracked because it was still humid as hell, even at night. Around midnight, Sarah stopped mid-sentence and said, "Do you smell that?" I did. It smelled like burning hair and something else, something rotten. I told her it was probably just a dead animal in the ditch. Happens all the time in Florida. Possums, raccoons, even gators. But the smell kept getting stronger. Then my radio started acting weird. The station we were listening to, Hot 105 out of West Palm, started cutting in and out, static. Then it switched stations on its own, and that's when we heard it. A voice, a woman's voice, but it wasn't speaking English. It wasn't speaking Spanish. It was something else, something older. The words didn't sound like any language I'd ever heard, but I understood what she was saying anyway. In my head, I just knew. "Get out of the car." Sarah grabbed my arm. "James, we need to go, right now." I tried to start the car, turned the key, nothing. The engine wouldn't turn over. I tried again, nothing, not even a click. That's when we saw her. At first, she was just standing at the edge of the tree line, maybe 30 feet away. A woman in a long, old-fashioned dress, the kind you see in pictures from the 1800s. But something was wrong with the way she stood. Her head was tilted too far to one side, way too far, like her neck was broken. Sarah started crying, quietly at first, then louder. The woman started walking toward us, not fast, slow, deliberate, each step making no sound, even though she was walking through dead leaves and palmetto scrub. I locked the doors. I know how stupid that sounds now, but it's what I did. Like a door lock would stop whatever this was. She got closer, close enough that I could see her face in the moonlight. Her eyes were gone, just empty sockets, black, hollow, but somehow I knew she was looking right at me. Sarah was screaming now, telling me to drive, to do something, but the car was dead. I kept turning the key over and over, pumping the gas, nothing. The woman reached my driver's side window. She pressed her face against the glass. Her mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open. Wider and wider, like her jaw was unhinged. And from inside that black void, I heard dozens of voices. Men, women, children, all speaking that same language, all saying the same thing. You're on our road. Then she smiled. I'll never forget that smile. It wasn't human. It was too wide, too many teeth, teeth that were too long and too sharp. She reached up and tapped on my window with one finger. Once, twice, 3 times. On the third tap, every window in my car spiderwebbed with cracks. Not shattered, just cracked, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Then she turned and walked back into the tree line, disappeared into the darkness. The second she was gone, my car started. I didn't even turn the key. It just started on its own. I threw it in reverse and got the hell out of there so fast I nearly drove into the ditch. We didn't talk the whole drive back. What was there to say? When I dropped Sarah off, she made me promise never to tell anyone. Said people would think we were crazy or on drugs or something. I promised. We broke up 2 weeks later. She wouldn't talk about why. Wouldn't even look at me in school. Her parents moved away the following summer. I heard through friends that Sarah had some kind of breakdown, stopped sleeping, stopped eating. They had to put her in a facility up in Gainesville for a while. I tried to forget about it, tried to convince myself it was some Halloween prank, or maybe we'd been drugged somehow, I don't know. But I couldn't explain the cracks in every window of my car. Couldn't explain why my radio never worked right again after that night. About a year later, I was working at the Ace Hardware in town. An old man came in, had to be in his 80s, buying fence posts. We got to talking, and I don't know why, but I mentioned Old Bypass Road. His whole face changed. He got real quiet, real serious. Then he told me something I'll never forget. Back in the 1890s, that road was part of an old Seminole trading route. Before the road was even built, it was a path. In 1897, there was a Seminole woman named Tlaco who lived in a settlement nearby. She had a gift, people said. She could see things, spirits, the future, things like that. Some white settlers didn't like that, thought she was a witch. They accused her of cursing their crops, killing their cattle. One night, a group of men dragged her out of her home, took her out to that oak tree, the same one where Sarah and I used to park. They hung her from that tree. Before she died, she cursed that land, said anyone who came to that road with ill intentions, anyone sneaking around, doing something they shouldn't be doing, would answer to her, would answer to all of them, all the ones who died there over the years. The old man looked me dead in the eye and said, "That road don't forgive, and it don't forget." I never went back to Old Bypass Road, never drove past it, never even looked down it when I drove by on the highway. And I'm telling you this now because I need you to know, if you're ever driving through Okeechobee County and you see a sign for Old Bypass Road, keep driving, don't stop, don't even slow down, because she's still there, waiting. And if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, something you're hiding from someone, she'll know, and she'll come for you. My name is Terrell, and I need to tell you about something that happened to me in March of 2018. I was 25 years old, working third shift at a warehouse off 1st Avenue North in Birmingham, Alabama, right near Sloss Furnaces. If you're not from Birmingham, you might not know about Sloss. It's this old iron furnace from the 1800s, a National Historic Landmark now. Back in the day, it was one of the biggest pig iron producers in the South. But it's also got a dark history. Workers died there, a lot of workers. Burns, falls, accidents with the molten iron. The conditions were brutal. There's this legend about a foreman named James Slag Wormwood who worked men to death, literally. Pushed them so hard in the heat that 47 people died on his watch. Then in 1906, Slag himself fell into the furnaces. They say on overnight shifts, you can still hear him walking the catwalks, still trying to push workers harder. Our warehouse was in one of the old industrial buildings from that same era. Red brick, rusted metal beams, the whole nine. The company converted it in the 90s, but they kept a lot of the original structure, including the basement. Nobody liked going to the basement. My supervisor, this older dude named Curtis, told me on my first night, if you gotta get something from downstairs, do it before midnight. After midnight, you stay on the main floor. I don't care what falls off a pallet or what inventory we're missing. You do not go down there alone after midnight. I asked why. Curtis just looked at me. Because people who go down there after midnight don't always come back the same. For the first 2 months, I followed the rule. Stayed upstairs, did my work, collected my check. Easy money for overnight work. Me and 2 other guys, Marcus and JJ, we'd load trucks, organize shipments, keep everything moving. Quiet shifts, barely saw a soul. Then one night in March, JJ called out sick. Marcus had to leave early for a family emergency. It was just me, alone, from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Around 2:30 a.m., I got a call from Curtis. He was off site but checking the cameras. Terrell, we got a whole pallet of merchandise that's supposed to go out at 6 a.m. It's in the basement, section D. You're gonna have to go get it. I reminded him about the rule, no basement after midnight. Curtis went quiet. Then he said, look, I know, but we got a client paying premium for this delivery. If we don't have it loaded by morning, we lose the contract. It's your choice, but he didn't have to finish. I needed this job. Rent was due. I had bills. All right, I said, I'll get it. Be quick, Curtis said. In and out. Don't linger. I grabbed the hand truck and headed to the basement stairs. The door was heavy, solid steel, rusty hinges that screamed when I pulled it open. The stairwell was concrete, lit by a single bulb that flickered every few seconds. As soon as I started down those stairs, the temperature dropped. And I mean dropped. It had to be 90 degrees on the main floor, no AC in that old building. But the basement was cold, cold enough to see my breath. At the bottom of the stairs, there was another door. This one was newer, but someone had scratched something into the metal. I shined my flashlight on it. He's still here? My stomach dropped, but I'd come this far. I pushed the door open. The basement was massive. Rows and rows of old industrial shelving, wooden pallets stacked with boxes, and in the back, the original brick furnace system from when the building was part of the ironworks. They'd sealed it off with chain link fencing, but you could still see the old smelting equipment through the gaps. Section D was in the far corner. Of course it was. I started walking, my footsteps echoing off the concrete floor. The only light came from a few hanging bulbs scattered throughout the space. Most of them were burned out. That's when I heard it. Metal on metal, coming from the direction of the old furnaces. I stopped, listened. Like someone hitting a pipe with a wrench. Slow, deliberate. Hello, I called out. Maintenance? The clanging stopped. For about 10 seconds, there was complete silence. Then I heard footsteps, heavy boots on metal, walking across the catwalks above the old furnace equipment. I shined my flashlight toward the sound, but the beam didn't reach that far, just darkness. The footsteps stopped directly above me. Then a voice, deep, raspy, like someone who'd been breathing in smoke for decades.
You're wasting time.
I froze. The voice came again, louder this time.
Move faster.
I didn't wait. I ran to Section D, found the pallet Curtis was talking about, and started loading boxes onto the hand truck as fast as I could. My hands were shaking so bad I kept dropping things. That's when the lights went out. All of them, complete darkness. I fumbled for my phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam was weak, barely cutting through the black. And then I saw him, standing about 20 feet away. A man in old work clothes, coveralls, heavy boots, a cap pulled low over his face. But his skin was burned, blackened, peeling, like he'd been pulled out of a fire but kept walking anyway. He tilted his head, staring at me. Why'd you stop? I couldn't speak, couldn't move. He took a step forward, then another. His boots made that same heavy thud I'd heard on the catwalk. I said, why'd you stop? My phone flashlight started flickering. On, off, on, off. Each time it came back on, he was closer. 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet. When the light came back on the last time, he was right in front of me. So close I could smell him. Burned metal, sulfur, rot. His face was inches from mine. I could see where his eyes should have been. Just empty sockets. Burned out, hollow. He opened his mouth. It was full of ash and blackened teeth. When he spoke, I felt the heat from his breath, like standing next to an open furnace.
You think you can rest? You think you deserve to rest?
Then he grabbed my arm. His hand was burning hot. I screamed and jerked away, stumbling backward into the shelving. Boxes crashed down around me. I didn't look back. I left the hand truck, left the merchandise, and sprinted for the stairs. I could hear him behind me, those heavy boots pounding the concrete, getting faster, faster. I hit the stairs and took them 3 at a time. Burst through the steel door, slammed it behind me, and kept running until I was out of the building. I sat in my car in the parking lot, shaking, gasping for air. My arm was throbbing. I looked down. There was a handprint burned into my forearm, black, charred, like someone had branded me. I called Curtis, told him everything. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "That's Slag. That's James Wormwood. He died in the furnaces over at Sloss, but he worked this building too, back when it was part of the same operation. People say he can't rest, can't stop working, and he doesn't want anyone else to rest either. I quit that night. Didn't go back for my last check. Didn't even clean out my locker. Just left. But Curtis was right about one thing. Slag wasn't done with me. For weeks after, I'd wake up at 2:30 a.m., the exact time I went into that basement, drenched in sweat, smelling smoke and sulfur. My apartment would be freezing cold, even though the heat was on. I'd hear those boots walking through my living room, my hallway, and sometimes, late at night, I'd hear his voice. "Why'd you stop?" The burn on my arm never fully healed. It's still there, faded now, but if you look close, you can still see the handprint. It's been 6 years. The encounters are less frequent now, but they haven't stopped. Every once in a while, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and smell that sulfur, feel that heat, and I know he's still watching, still waiting for me to stop working, to rest. Because in Slag's world, you don't get to rest. Not ever. If you're ever in Birmingham and you're working third shift near Sloss Furnaces, near those old industrial buildings off 1st Avenue North, listen to the old timers. Listen to people like Curtis. If they tell you don't go to the basement after midnight, believe them.